Now is Representative Barbara Lee, a Democrat from California. E.J. Dionne, an MSNBC contributor, Washington Post columnist, and a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution. Julie Pace, chief White House correspondent for the Associated Press, and Michelle Bernard, president of the Bernard Center for Women, Politics, and Public Policy. Lovely to have you all here. Nice to be back in D.C. Julie, do you think I got this right? Do you think that drafting strategy is what's going on with a couple of those candidates?
Yeah, I think you nailed it perfectly. For Rubio and Kasich, it actually is a great strategy right now. They're looking at this large field. They have a solid base of support at this point. They have enough money to compete for months if this race goes on for quite a long time. And they don't really have an incentive to go after Trump directly if they know that Bush and Walker and others are going to do that. They need someone to do it. It just doesn't need to be them right now.
So that's interesting to me. This idea that Bush is playing this role of going after, and you even hear Mr. Trump there in that moment saying, "Oh, better energy tonight. Good job, Jeb." Right? I'm wondering, should Jeb be drafting a little bit, or is it right for him? Does he need to have to attack Trump?
I don't think he has a choice. First thing I want to say, I hope every NASCAR fan in America now becomes a fan of the Melissa Harris show. This is the only political show I know that's talking about drafting. Although it's funny, a conservative friend of mine, Henry Olson, a great political analyst, probably because he's not from North Carolina, also talked about drafting at something I was at on Friday. He was talking about horse racing.
Oh, yeah.
And he agrees with you. And I think this is a classic thing in campaigns. You saw it, for example, like in a governor's race in California where there were two front runners, and this was when Gray Davis was running. They just went at each other. The voters get sick of the attack, and they say, who else is up there? So I think there's a classic political thing here, but those guys don't have a lot to gain by going after Trump. The other guy who's doing a peculiar form of drafting is Ted Cruz,
right,
where his idea is someday Trump will collapse or might collapse. I'm going to pick up his supporters. So he doesn't say a cross word about Trump. He always says nice things about him, saying, you know, guys, Trump supporters, I'm here if something happens.
Yeah, he's more like the wingman even than the drafting. So Congressman Lee, it also occurs to me that part of why we love NASCAR in North Carolina is the inherent danger that always exists, right? This sense that you're watching something that could go badly. And it just strikes me that part of whatever strategy seems to be going on in the GOP primary, there is a stoking of fear, a stoking of this sense of danger, and especially around, for example, the Iranian deal, around the idea that somehow the president is not keeping us safe as a nation. And I'm wondering if you can respond to that.
You know, preying on fear, which is a terrible emotion, to me is just fundamentally wrong. The American people won't be fooled by that, I don't believe. I think that people will know at some point that the Republicans are really just trying to play to their emotions rather than talking about the real issues, like the issue around the affordability of college education, access to affordable housing, access to the ballot box. I mean, the real issues that these candidates should actually be addressing. They're not addressing them. And so the playing on the fears of people, many of these candidates, the Republican candidates, are doing, it's not going to work. People are going to wake up and see that fear-mongering should not be part of the political discourse when you're going to support a candidate or determine who you're going to support.
On this fear-mongering, there was also a little bit of a revisionist history moment that happened, Michelle. I want to play Jeb Bush talking about sort of his brother's track record as president.
Your brother and your brother's administration gave us Barack Obama because it was such a disaster those last 3 months that Abraham Lincoln couldn't have been elected.
You know what? As it relates to my brother, there's one thing I know for sure. He kept us safe. I don't know if you remember, Donald.
So that was meant to be like his comeback, and instead people were like, sir, I'm not sure if you remember that 9/11 actually did happen.
Yes.
And Katrina happened on your brother's watch.
Yeah, I don't think that's what he was thinking. I think this was Jeb Bush actually drafting. You know, he's going to sort of hang out there and allow Donald Trump to implode, which eventually I think is going to happen. From what we've seen from Jeb Bush so far, I think that's the best we've seen him. If we don't if we, I don't want to say ignore, but if we, I don't want to take away in any sense that 9/11 happened. I think his point was that after 9/11, on his brother's watch, the United States was not attacked at home again, and it gave him an opportunity to look like a leader, to be strong, to be emphatic, to be, as Donald Trump would say, high energy. That moment and the moment when he protected his wife were his greatest moments in the second debate, and he needed to do that.
You know, but I gotta say, anthrax did happen after.
Yeah.
He is talking to Republicans.
Yeah.
There are two worlds in America. There's a Washington Post story this morning where, you know, it's as if you have completely different groups of people talking about completely different things. That line went over really well with Republicans.
Absolutely.
And for now, he desperately needs
despite the lack of empirical evidence to support it.
If you like revisionist history, you love the Republican debate.
I think it's actually a little more simple. He has struggled with this question of what to do with his brother throughout this campaign.
Yeah.
And what his supporters and his campaign really liked about that moment is that it was decisive, it was clear, he seemed confident in his answer, he handled the brother question, and that's as
style even more than substance. Oh man, they're getting on fire now. But I promise when we come back, we've got more on this debate and the way that it's making all of us feel. And up next, the candidate who may have had the best comeback.